Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you guys. There's Thilo and Tim, and Henrik is having dinner in Copenhagen right now, so he'll join us afterwards. Hello and welcome, welcome. I am live on YouTube now as well. My name is Quinn Jacobson, and if you haven't been here before, if this is your first go around, I call this the Studio Q Show live because right now I'm live. If you're watching this some other day or some other time, I'm not live. But for right now, I'm live. So welcome. I hope everybody's healthy and happy and doing well. Good to see everybody coming in. We'll wait for, I'm 1 minute early. So, oh, wow. 10 people just jumped on YouTube there. Cool. So, this is, what is today? September 26th, 2020. For posterity's sake, we're still in semi-lockdown. I'm in lockdown all the time. I'm on a mountain, so I'm not around people anyway, so I don't really have to worry too much about that. Good afternoon. Hello, Jan from Norway, and Will. Good afternoon. You must be somewhere overseas as well, too. I'm in Colorado, the United States of America, in the western side of it, or maybe middle America, depending on how you want to look at the map. And another beautiful continual soiree here on top of the mountain today. Sunny, 22 degrees Celsius, beautiful, wonderful time. So I thought what we'd do today is join, kind of continue on. Oh, Erie. Oh, it's noon, I guess. It is noon in Pennsylvania. Sorry, Will. I thought you were saying like afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So anyway, welcome. So I thought what we'd do today is talk a little bit about, it's always open to technical stuff if people want to come in and do some technical stuff. But I thought today would continue on and look at some photographs. I received an email, I think it was yesterday. I'll have to look on it. I'll read it from last week. Let me pull that up. I can start with that. I don't know if this gentleman's watching or not, or Simon Cotter, I believe is his name. And let me see if I can just read this. This was concerning Ian. Ian joined us last week. He came in with his big, his ambrotypes, his big, I think he said, he did them in a house, punched a hole in the house, or put a lens or something in some old house in deserted or apocalyptic California. And this is what Simon Cotter wrote me. Let's see, does he say where he's from? I'm going to suspect he is from the UK. Says, hi, Quinn. Sadly, I don't watch your show live. Bad time difference. Snoring takes precedence. So I don't know where he is. But if you can, add 2 cents worth to Ian Reuter's request for feedback on his quest to size wet plate images. I think that his work is fabulous. Hats off to Ian for successfully expanding a customary boundary and creating life-size images with great backstories. His work is not speculative, but carefully considered and thematic, and he has a painter's eye in the way he selects his singular image, quote unquote, singular image subjects and frames them. The way in which he has tested and stretched the conventions on ambrotype size is daring, eye-watering, challenging, physically, chemically, logistically, financially, yet he goes with great enthusiasm and obvious determination and confidence, and I love that. He said, I was intrigued to hear him say that he has dyslexia and that the camera was initially for him a way around and beyond it. This may explain why he seems so much at ease with the wet plate medium and why his on-location style leaves so little room for shill-shally. It's a matter of being all in and to hell with the postage. I've watched videos of Ian pouring some of his larger plates, and I reckon he uses more collodion on one plate than I use in a year. If only I could catch his drips. Yeah. However, I'd be interested to know how he goes about the next 2 stages, the silvering and developing. I assume he has a giant silver tray, another develop positioned inside his camera. be it a truck or a house, so that he doesn't need to exit the camera and expose. That may be something he doesn't want to divulge, but no matter, as long as his wet plate career thrives, he may continue to document and solution the social dissolution. Whoops. Yeah. So anyway, some feedback. So people, come in. I think there's real interest in sharing work, talking about work. I know it's hard to put work up and have people, rip on it, but at the same time, it's one of those really important facets. It's kind of like making dog food and never letting the dogs get around to see if the dogs like the dog food, right? So you're kind of out there, making photographs, thinking that you're on the right track, or maybe you're questioning what you're doing, and maybe you don't even know what you're doing at all, right? Maybe you're just, faking it in a way. But once you, and I'm not talking about friends and family kind of stuff, once you expose, no pun intended, show your photographs or display your photographs to strangers and people that will give you an honest critique, things usually change. People that really want to grow and progress in making photographs, they have to engage with people that won't say, "Oh, that's cool. I like that. That's really neat." I don't think critiques here should be. It's great to praise and give note accomplishments and kudos and accolades to people that are doing things, but I think we need to be on kind of the constructive criticism side too, and be open and willing to say, hey, that doesn't really make sense, or that, why did you overexpose that, or why is that underexposed, or why did you compose it like this, it doesn't make sense, and to push back a little bit, because showing your photographs to friends and family, or a real safe environment that everybody's going to like it or say, oh, that's cool, thumbs up or whatever, doesn't really allow you to grow. It doesn't really give you anywhere to proceed. And so you're kind of stuck in this. That's cool. You can do no wrong. Every photograph you make is interesting. And you're just kind of left there feeding off of that, hitting your dopamine farm, on social media, all that kind of crap that they talk about. So I think these critiques should be more constructive. I'm not talking about, we're not going to slam people, or we're not going to be ignorant or rude to people. I'm not saying that, but be challenging, right? I mean, don't hold back on, if you see something in a photograph that somebody shares, think about it for a little bit and construct a way so you don't sound rude or condescending or any of that. We don't want to do that. But at the same time, when all we do is lather it with sugarcoat it and say how great it is and everything, and if that's the way you feel, that's fine. But not only the presenters feel a certain level of stress showing their work to the mass public in general, and especially if it's going to go up on YouTube, they feel nervous. It's even the viewers that don't want to, most viewers that don't want to come off sounding, condescending or mean or rude or whatever. Your words, construct them away in a way that's constructive and not destructive, and let the people kind of choose what they want to do. Hello, Linda. Welcome, welcome. So I thought what we'd do is, Pablo, hope you can get a cam next time. Yeah, no problem, Pablo. You're in here. There's 17 people on YouTube now, and we got a few in here. So that's good. You don't have to have a camera to get in here. So here's what I want to do. I want to start off. I'm going to share one photograph. I'm going to talk about that photograph. You guys can comment on that photograph. And I'm going to try to make a little bit of a point here. Tim has already seen this image. Maybe some of you have. A lot of you have. But it's a great example for me to talk about what I mean when I talk about critique, what I mean when I talk about context, what I mean when I talk about, a body of work, not just one single image, but a body of work, that kind of thing. So let me see if I can do this. I'll start off the session. Well, I guess I should get the image up here. I'll start off the session with this image. You have a pie. It's a Yavapai nation that was massacred it's west of Prescott, Arizona in the United States. So I'm going to start off with this image. Now, I'm going to describe this image. You guys can see this image, obviously. A lot of you probably have. There's actually a raven right down here, by the way. I know it's hard to see in this digital copy, but I actually had a black raven come in and sit right on the photograph. So let me describe this image first, and then you guys can give feedback or critique or review. Come at me hard, you know. If there's something in there that doesn't make sense, you know, punch back a little bit. I've got tough skin. Don't worry about my feelings. I'm okay. I want you to be rude, but at the same time, don't hold back is what I'm saying. So I made this photograph as part of the Ghost Dance series. It was a little premature for me. I'd been traveling from Colorado. We went out west to California and then came back through Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, all those places, looking at these massacre sites. They're all over the United States, by the way. There are so many of them. You could spend a lifetime and never get to them all. So, hello, Drew and Christina Wagner. Welcome, Pleasant Valley, PA. Very good, Drew. Excellent. Thanks for dropping in. So this is an image I made quite a while ago. This is west of Prescott, Arizona in the western United States. The Yavapai, this is a valley where the Yavapai tribe spend a lot of time. And this is an interesting photograph visually, because if you've ever been down into that part of the United States, you'll see these big red and sand mounds and orange and yellow and different colors of striations in the mountains and the rock formations there. It's really interesting. And when you photograph it in collodion, you get these crazy cool stripes along the mountain. First off, how this image strikes me is I know the history of the valley there. I know what happened there. And yet I look at these monuments, and I'm going to do these rock formations, and I'm going to do something similar up here with these rock formations and landscapes. And how they translate in collodion is otherworldly. I mean, and that was a big part for me coming into this project, is like, God, how do I make these massacre sites that are like, a lot of times there's just nothing there to photograph. I mean, it's just nothing. How do I make these photographs interesting? So I'm relying a little bit on the process to support these ideas. And one of the ideas in this work was to make things feel otherworldly, to make things feel almost unnatural and strange because of the conditions of it. But anyway, this is the Yavapai nation, the Native American tribe, the Yavapai. And around, they call this Skeleton Mountain or Skull Mountain. And around, you can go online and look this up. They left all the body, skulls and bones around the base of this mountain where they massacred this Native American tribe, mostly women and children and older people. This was the United States military, the United States Army that did most of these massacres, or basically all of them, or parts depending on how far back you want to go. But the United States military massacred Native Americans that lived here around and along in the valley here and along and around the base of this. And there's a cave around the backside where they really, they found, you know, skulls and bones, and they call it Skull Mountain or Skeleton Mountain or Skull Valley or Skeleton Valley. Just depends on who you talk to. 1874, 1878, somewhere in there. But at the end of the day, the point I wanted to make with this photograph, and then you guys can, if you want to, if you don't have to, if you don't want to, we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, I show this photograph. This is a whole plate tintype. I did make a couple of negatives of it as well. This is a whole plate tintype. And when I show this image to people, you know, the first response is, oh, that's, you know, we have that general superficial conversation. Oh, that's cool looking. Where is that? You know, oh, that's interesting. It's Arizona. Oh, I see the desert scape. And in the plate, you can actually see the little raven down in here. But so we have that conversation. And I'm not telling them anything about the photograph. I just said I was traveling around the up and make these landscape plates, and I thought they were interesting, blah blah blah. And you know, it's really, I'd throw in a little bit. It's a little like Edward Curtis or Carlton Watkins, or Timothy O'Sullivan or Gardner, or all of those. I'm throwing back to the 19th century visually here, obviously through the process and the type of images I'm making. But I don't say anything about the Native American aspect of it, right? And so the conversation stops. It's cool looking. Oh, it's interesting. They have the general idea of it. Then I drop in on them that fact that the Yavapai were massacred here, and the name of this mountain, the name of this valley, and all of a sudden the conversation changes over into, our history, the American history with indigenous people and all that kind of thing. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make was, you can have a beautiful photograph, but the context surrounding it can be really what's telling and really what's important about that photograph, rather than, this is this kind of collodion and I use this lens, and I know people love the technical stuff, and it's a really easy way to get into having conversations. What kind of lens, what kind of process, what kind of material, what kind of chemistry, what kind of light, all that stuff. But that's really kind of irrelevant unless it does support the idea. That kind of stuff is irrelevant to the conversations that really should be taking place. And maybe over time we can get people to participate on that level in this kind of group setting. It would be really good if we could have groups of people come in once a week and share work, talk about it, see what people are doing, help people. It really helps. Look, if you're struggling right now with making photographs, not technically, I'm not talking technical here at all. If you're struggling making photographs for purpose or reason or meaning in a larger concept or a larger idea, or you're kind of faking it and you're just, trying to make pretty pictures and, kind of emulating or even maybe derivative work, copying things and trying to replicate them and figuring out how people are doing them with lighting or whatever, and you're just kind of out there floating around, it'd be really good to put a few photographs together and come in on one of these sessions and let people give you feedback. Put it out there, answer the questions, and open it up and let people give you feedback. You'll grow. It may not be exactly what you want to hear, or it may not be reassuring and comforting if all you've got is praise and praise and likes and likes and likes, and you come into an environment that is more constructive and more interested in helping people grow, like I would like to see that here, you'll really get something out of it. A like on Facebook, or that's cool, or your friends coming over and, oh, that's really, great, and oh, that process, and you talk all that kind of, that's wonderful, right? That's time and time and time after time after time. And there's no real substance there. You're not, and if that's your goal, if you just want to play around in a process and have fun and do technical stuff and learn, great, that's no problem. This probably isn't for you. If you're trying to make work that has a narrative or a story or an impact, or feels complete, feels researched, feels authentic, and your heart and your head's in it, and share it with the people. Let the people see what you're doing, get feedback from them. I'm not saying let the people guide you. Get feedback and see if your ideas are translating to the people through your images. If that's not happening, then we have to take even a step back further than that. And that's what critiques do for you. It's kind of like, seeing what sticks, having an idea and saying, this is the idea, throw it up there. Does it work or not? And you can take it or leave it, people's opinions, advices, constructive criticism, things like that. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a nugget or two in that you'll really grow from. And you will never get that unless you show photographs and are open to receiving feedback on them. So I'm going to stop right there before I go too much further. Peter, hi from Connecticut. Welcome, Peter. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And let me see who else is in here. Sorry, I'm having a rant thing going on. So let's see who else is in here real quick. Oh.
So Quinn, are you open? Are you open to
yes,
comments?
please. I am open for comments. Thank you.
Okay, so when I look at this photograph, first thing that hits my eyes is that main subject mountain on the left side there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting you show. I want to show a couple photographs of my own that I struggle with. But this is a high contrast image. Wouldn't you agree? There's a lot of contrast here. Look at, you have deep, dark shadows. I assume it's either red rock or
yeah, it's red and yellow,
rock,
exactly.
Right? Red and yellow. And this reminds me of what I shoot in New Mexico a lot. And you get red and yellow are going to reflect how much UV light.
Right.
Very little.
Yep.
So they turn out black. And then you have areas, the sandy areas in the bottom, and even on the hillside. That hillside, the main subject there, it has the complete tonal range. You have some bright whites, you have some blacks in there, and you have some wonderful midtones. That's the first thing I notice when I see this is the huge contrast that collodion gives you with reds, yellows, and then you look at the green bushes. Those, I guarantee you, those are probably some kind of a green foliage. They're going to reflect back.
Yeah, you're right.
Zero
and
UV light.
They're in the foreground too, and the light is kind of scrimming them. The light is actually hitting the mountain there. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, you do. You see some highlights coming off those bushes, and then I guess that would be called spectral highlights, and that's going to give you some UV light. So that's wonderful. And then after I look at the main mountain there, I want more. So I start looking and panning the photograph, and people said that when you look at anyone looks at a photograph in a museum or in a gallery, you naturally go from left to right. Your eyes just flow from left to right. And so that's exactly what this photograph kind of makes you do. I'm flowing from left to right. So I want more, and I look over, and then there's the minor mountain in the background, and it has that dark black stripe that fades into, it's not a vignette. I know it's not a vignette, but it fades into a shadow part of the mountain that is completely black.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I like all that. And it shows you a pattern of striations or layers. That's the word. It shows you this pattern of layers that probably only collodion is going to give you. Now you can put you could take a digital photograph, put it in Photoshop, and you could do all kinds of things to the colors and that kind of to get the same effect. But this is really, really, I love this photograph because of the way the collodion presents the different tonalities and the highlights and the shadows and all that. So
thank you. Yeah, and I agree. And I tried to use that. To show both. It's dark in a way, like you said, the foreground and the right side of the image. I wanted a little foreboding. I wanted a little scary. Like I said, a little otherworldly. A little because of the events that transpired in these places, and they're very difficult to photograph with a concept in mind. I wanted to have that kind of dark feeling, but yet intriguing, and it almost feels like I'm on Mars. It almost feels like I'm not of this earth. And when I start thinking about those things and how this process translates certain subject matter, there really fits well together with this dark, non-human, non-earthly kind of activities, genocide that happened there, and yet there's something beautiful about it for me. Of course, I was there, and I wish you could see the raven down here in the foreground. Unfortunately, you can't, but because it's just digital, Anyway, there was a lot of things going on there. And I appreciate that feedback. The technical, the way the collodion saw the scene, the way it translated it, all plays in, for me at least, all plays in to the part of the concept behind the image. And this Yavapai massacre, Yavapai genocide of the Yavapai tribe here in Arizona. So these are the kinds of ideas that springboarding off the technical. Does the technical support your idea? Does it take away from your idea? Why are you using collodion? I can tell people right off the bat, one of the biggest reasons I use collodion, and especially for these types of images and this type of concept, is this was the dominant photographic process when this stuff happened. When the Native Americans were being massacred, the indigenous people were being massacred in this country in the 19th century, this was a predominant form of photography. So I'm playing off that. I'm playing off the relationship of the process with the indigenous people at the time. I'm playing off a lot of those things. But you're right, the technical stuff can definitely play a huge role in conveying ideas. And I appreciate that feedback, Tim. Thank you. Hello, Craig Murphy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So that's my contribution for the day. If anybody else wants to say anything or jump in here, please do.
So Quinn, I've been struggling with, I go down to New Mexico a lot, and it's the same kind of weather we have here in Colorado, exactly the same kind of weather you shot in that image there, no different.
Yep.
And I struggle because one of the projects I'm working on is photographing these old historic adobe churches. And huge contrast. And they're not coming out the way that I envisioned them when I take the photograph. And a lot of it is because of collodion, because of UV light and the deep shadows. And I try to expose, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong in doing this and help me. I need help with this. And I'm going to show you just real quickly a couple photographs, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. You're really not. But I struggle with getting detail in the shadows, detail in the highlights. And so what I end up doing is looking at my subject and photographing and exposing for the highlights in my subject. Not the highlights in the sky, because that's going to be blown out white most of the time anyway. So I'm really looking at my subject, and I photograph for the highlights in my subject. That's how I expose and develop, okay? Now, I'll show you this photograph I took a couple weeks ago, and I'll show you the negative. And you're going to see that in the deep shadows, there is absolutely no detail in those deep shadows at all. And for me to overexpose and bring out detail in those shadows, well, the highlights would be blown out. And that's just the way collodion is. I have a feeling. So here's the negative. Yeah, good. That you can see that.
Oh yeah.
See how contrasty that is?
Yeah.
And
it's silver and glass. Yeah.
And the shadows, which are the white areas in this, what I'm showing you, there's absolutely no detail in there whatsoever. And for me to bring out detail in that at exposure time, then the highlights here would be blown out. There'd be no detail in these highlights.
Yeah.
If I did that. So, and I know right now you guys can see this. This is bad. I can't. That squiggly line there on the side.
Yeah.
That is collodion pour off that started drying too quickly, and it built up right there. And I think that's pyrogaic acid that has stained that collodion. But maybe I'm wrong.
It stained the silver. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, and I'll show you the print of this.
Yeah, let's see the print. Yeah.
I'm just
that is very contrasty. You're right.
I'm just so disappointed because it's not at all. This is a carbon print. And you see, there's just no detail in the shadows, but the highlights, the midtones are properly exposed. I think they're properly exposed.
Yeah, that looks good.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the midtones and the highlights, but by golly, it's a bust image because the shadows are just too dark. And
I don't think it is. Anyone else can jump in here, obviously, but I'll just say this, Tim. Here's the thing that people don't realize about collodion. Collodion doesn't photograph everything well. It just doesn't. The more complex visually the image is, the lower you're going to have people respond. If you have a leafy, object filled photograph and you do it in a certain light, it's going to look like it's going to be a cacophony of info. You can't process that. It's going to be too much. You're not going to use collodion at nighttime, right? I mean, just it's not practical to photograph in low light or no light. You're not going to use collodion to make sports photographs or action images necessarily, right? So there are limits. And what you have to do, this is my opinion, and then other people can chime in and give you their opinion. What I would say you have to do is select the proper light, the proper time of year, the proper time of day, and spend a week at that location and different times of year, right? Spend time at those locations and find out the sun goes like this in the winter and it goes like this in the summer. What time of year as the earth is shifting? What the light, this process responds to the different seasons of light very differently. So you have to spend time if you want to get that full range, let's say that HDR effect, right? All the tones in there, not HDR, but get all those tones in there. You're going to have to find and do it in collodion. You're going to have to find the right time of year, the right time of day, and make multiple exposures. And really, you got to give your soul for that stuff unless you find something that will suffice in place of that particular scene and that will photograph easier or better. I shouldn't say easier, but I mean easier in the sense of making the full range or the fuller range of tones like you're talking about. You just don't want this yin and yang. The shadows are blown out, the highlights have some detail, or the shadows have some detail and the highlights are blown out. You're right about that. It's just
that's what I'm figuring out, is that the weather conditions, maybe I just need to photograph in an overcast situation.
That's right. That's right.
So to that point, this was taken 2 years ago. Here's the negative.
Too flat, huh?
here's the negative.
Okay.
Okay. Now look at the tonal range in the statue there. I mean,
beautiful.
It is, and
yeah, I can see it in the pleats of the dress or skirt or whatever that thing is.
And then that's how it prints. Now, look at the sky here.
Yeah.
You notice that actually is a cloud. This was an overcast day. In fact, it was raining.
Yeah.
And I was worried about my camera getting wet. It was just sprinkling. But the point is, extremely overcast day. Therefore, the lighting is so much more even. And I think
it's diffused, Tim. So if you like scrimming a light, you're breaking that light up. What you're doing is you're taking that light and you're breaking it up. The clouds will scatter the light, right? Like a veil. That's why we call it veil lighting or soft veil, or however you want to put it. But once you scrim that light and scatter it, that's where you get your range. That's why this is what I loved about being in Europe. For 5 years, most any day in Europe, wherever I was at in Europe, whether it was Germany or Hungary or the UK or wherever I was, I could go out and that low elevation with that those overcast clouds, I could make the most incredible tonal. I just showed one the other day, the portrait of the black guy without his shirt on. That's in my North Lit garden in Germany. That is the most full. That's got the range a million. That image to me represents what collodion has the potential to do as far as tonal range goes. It can get all of it, but you've got to be the director of that. You got to know the light. Collodion does not photograph well in bright light, overhead sunlight. You should never photograph in that. Okay. It doesn't do well. It just doesn't, right?
I'm finding it out the hard way. I've been down there maybe 20 times. And we're talking hotels, food, gasoline, okay? And I'm just now learning that you can't photograph in that kind of light.
Yeah.
Unless I want to go early in the morning and maybe the sun is directly hitting this direct on. But
now you don't have the Kelvin temperature you need. You still need that actinic 56, 5700 Kelvin temperature light. You just need it diffused. You just can't have it so harsh. Collodion's just not going to do it. If you give collodion a break and soften that up and break it up, it'll perform for you all day long, like you know. Yeah, that's a good point. and collodion isn't for everything. That's for sure.
And I have to say, I also thought about, well, maybe I'll just use brand new collodion because it's less contrasty, you know. But that has other problems. I personally do not like brand new collodion. I like old collodion that is beet red. That's what I like. And that's what I'm shooting with, which is going to give you more contrast, I believe. Okay?
Which is great. You just need that light diffused. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the main thing that you guys would tell me that I need to do differently. Time of day, time of year, overcast versus bright sunlight.
Yeah. You know what I've done, Tim, actually? Where was this? I think this was at Red Rocks Community College in Morrison, Colorado, there out near Golden. I was invited out like I used to do all the time and go out and do a little lecture, do a little demo. And here we are. This class was at noon, right? 12 o'clock in the day. It was like June. It was probably even past the solstice. So we were probably right in the peak of summer. So the sun came up right over the top of us. There's a sun hanging right there. And I'm supposed to make these portraits of these people, right out in the bright open sun. It's like, I can't do that. And there are no trees around. There's no good situation to get in. So what I started doing is I have these 48-inch discs, these bounce discs that fold up. I have gold and silver and black and white and all different kinds of colors on the discs. I take that black 48-inch disc and put over the top of the subject's head. So, and man, I just get these beautiful ranges, these beautiful portraits. The skin tones are gorgeous. I don't care about the background. Let it go. I just cared about the portrait. So I'd put that black disc over their head like that. And sometimes I'd bounce a little light in. It just depended on the subject. But that worked excellent. That worked beautifully to take away that harsh, bright noonday sun or desert sun or however you want to put it. And we can't always be there when it's cloudy, especially out west here. You know this, Tim. In Colorado here, we get over 300 days of sunshine every year. So it's really difficult fighting. I was just out driving around the other day looking at these rock formations. And I was thinking, man, every time I drove by this one in different days, right? Different times of days, the whole scene had changed just because of the light. The scene had changed radically. It'd go, from the morning light at 7 o'clock to the evening light at 6 o'clock. If it's June or if it's September, radically different. So yeah, people have to pay attention to what time of day, what time of year, what kind of light you're dealing with. I mean, it really, that's all it is. It really makes a huge difference. And Gianni says, hi, Quinn. Hi, Gianni. Tim, you are answering to your question. If you get the highest tonal range, you don't need strong sun, but a cloudy day. Exactly. Gianni, that's exactly what we're talking about. So there's another one for you chiming in on the right to the cloudy day. And Herr Ketterman, hello from rainy Germany. There you go. So it's always raining in Germany. At least it was. Germany, where I lived, makes Seattle look sunny and dry. I'll put it that way. All right. Hey, Lawrence, good to see you. We'll eat meanwhile. No problem. Chump away, brother. Chump away. Not a problem at all. We're loose and open in this group. We just want to have a nice conversation. I appreciate that, Tim. Those are good-looking images, man. That statue image, that's a beautiful carbon print there. Beautiful. You've all seen this one too. You can watch the video on YouTube if you haven't. I went to a Friedhof, a cemetery in Germany, Käfertal, Germany. Is where this little Friedhof was. And I photographed that angel. And again, here we go again, right? Check this out. This is a perfect example for this. Here we have this cemetery angel, all white, like white marble or white whatever, probably marble in this case, white marble with the pleats on the dress or the outfit, just like what Tim just had there. And then surrounding it was all dark green vegetation, right? So with an overcast day and a 6 or 8 second exposure, I made a negative. All that detail came. You know what? I want to do something here. I want to do something. I've got to do this because Tim brought this up, and this is such a good topic to have a conversation about, because people just don't understand. They may be great with traditional silver gelatin film or digital even, or whatever, at understanding light or strobe light, but they start breaking down when they go outside with collodion, and especially in the bright sun. It just doesn't work. Let me pull this up. I want to show you guys this, because, or at least a piece of it. Give me a second to find this. Talk amongst yourselves, like we say. It won't take me too long. I'm just looking through my YouTube stuff here. I should be able to search it, but I can scroll through. God, I didn't know I had this many videos up here. This is kind of crazy a little bit. There's the Kafer tall. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That's not on that. That's on, I'm tripping. No, you guys may have not seen this, because that's behind my Vimeo account, I believe. Let me look at my videos here. I just have to show you this because it makes a really good, to Tim's point, to the point we're talking about photographing on a cloudy day versus a sunny day, what kind of collodion you use. That kind of goes out the window at this point, because on a really bright sunny day, it doesn't matter what collodion you use. It matters what you have cooking on the lighting situation. Let's see. There's gelatin. Okay. Sorry, bear with me. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, or I would have had this pulled up. So should have known, huh? It should have been circles making. Oh, here we go. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can share this. This is behind the scenes a bit. Here we go. Okay, share video or share screen, application window. This is when I was really fat and I had long hair. In fact, I'm getting my hair cut off today and my beard too. So let's go here. Check this out, guys. You'll get a kick out of this. I think you will anyway.
Hello and welcome to the March 2010 chemical.
I've been doing this for a couple of days, so.
The cemetery here, and we'll get a couple of images. The angel, I know we'll get one of that, and this will give us a little. So if you have the old red collodion or the new guy or the ammonium iodide collodion and it's old, works great for this. So we're also going to use this negative developer, and all this is positive developer that it's diluted 50-50. With distilled water. It's just half the strength, basically. And one more thing, there's a preparation. When you go out in the field like this, what I do is I prepare the plate that I want to use, and I clean it, deburr it, clean it, and then I wrap it up in a nice paper towel. And I also edge it with albumin. So it's edged, because I know I'm going to make a negative, and if it shrinks the collodion, so I need that. It's clean, and then I put it in an envelope like this, mark what it is, and I have a set of these, and I can use them as I need. And you can do that with black glass as well too, of course, but you don't want to be doing that stuff out in the field like here. And so that's what we're going to use. We're going to use some whole plate clear glass. We're going to make a couple of negatives today.
Okay, so that's that. I wanted to give you the okay, here it is. Look at that. You can't get any whiter than that. But look at the weather, right? It's overcast. It's beautiful. 6 seconds at F8.
So here's our first attempt at the angel in the cemetery here in Kafertal. And we're going to go ahead and fix this now. And I'm going to use potassium cyanide because it does give some spectral sensitivity. This is a 6-second exposure.
Watch how dense this foundation negative is, even out of without any redevelopment.
So there you go. That's nice and clear, and I'm just going to let it go for just a little tad bit longer. And again, this is a negative, so we'll pull that out. Grab some wash water here. We're out here in the field, so it's a little bit bulky to do this. But it's almost there here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it. Transmitted light, because that's all we're really interested in.
See, that's right out of the camera.
Actually, without even any intensification, would print actually quite well. I'm going to try one more.
And I've vignetted that on the top. I'm using a 22 centimeter lens, so. And you guys have seen this. I've made carbon prints of this scene. They broke my negatives on the way back to Europe, from Europe, so I don't have a lot of these negatives left.
6, 7.
There's 8 seconds on that one. This is just, look at the light though. See the light
so
diffuse.
Negative here. I exposed it at f8 for 8 seconds, and I'm going to go process this, and we'll take a look at it. You got it. Let's take a look at this negative now. This is what it looks like pre-fix.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello. This is called collodion.
Hello.
Hello. And I just came to the Friedhof to make some plates and negatives to print.
Always be kind to your visitors.
So I'm going to put it in the bathroom now and fix it. Okay. You can see it. If you want, it takes 2 seconds. Thanks. Yep. Thanks for your interest.
My door just flung open.
So give it one more wash before it goes in. And again, I'm using sodium cyanide, but I want all those details to come out in the image. So, and I like the color of this, and I can see this is going to be very nice. So come on over and take a look here. And here we go. Of course, it's going to look like an overexposed ambrotype. But you notice all my shadow areas are see-through, and that's what I want. All the black areas, that's what I want. So, yeah, this is going to make a gorgeous print.
And it did. It's one of the most perfect negatives, straight up.
I don't want to eat any of those highlights or subtle tones away, so pull it out. And I'll show you something in just 1 second. Get some fresh water here.
Working out of the back of my Toyota 4Runner there.
Fresh water on it. Working in the field is always fun this way, because you're always struggling to get water. And as you can see, this is a little less dense than this one. But then again, we have the sky in that, and the
statue is white.
A good candidate for redevelopment. I'm going to show you that when we get back to the studio, to the dark room. Right now, I'm just going to wash them, and we're going to pack up. And thank you, Carl, for the use of your dark box. It's wonderful. It worked great. No light leaks, no problems, and we're going to have fun in London with it.
Let's go up here and check out the. I'm making pyro there. Let's get into the.
Okay, so it's kind of taken on a red-gray color. Again, all the shot.
I just want to give you the transmitted light shot. Here we go.
It's like that, okay? I'll turn it over one more time just to make sure I got it back. Be careful when you're doing this that you keep track of the collodion side, though. So, there it is now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk upstairs, and we're going to put it out in the sun or the UV just for a second. So here we are, sunny Germany. And I'm just going to expose it to some UV here. You can see it's still very negative-ish. But I'm just going to let these, notice again, I can't.
Just skip to the, here, we're redeveloping here. You guys have seen that a ton of times. I just want to show you the final negative here. Wow, I'm really juicing it.
Where so what I'm going to do, because it has silver on it, very careful when you're
there it is.
if you plan on doing a negative, you've got to make sure that you have that albuminized, or the plate. And you can see there, that's about the density that we want for salt and or albumin. Actually, salt requires a little more density. We're going to get a lot of detail in there. That's beautiful. So I'm just going to watch that for a while and set that over here. There is a whole plate redeveloped negative.
So that's it. Again, the lighting, obviously the lighting made those images, but it just reminded me of that statue that I did there. All white, details perfect in the print, tonal range is all there. Just that overcast, low elevation light. Light in Europe is so different than light here. It's amazing. It's a different experience. It's softer. It's more. I don't even know how to put it, but so Samuel. Yeah, came from the. Samuel says that's probably why Archer came from the UK, right? To get those tones. Did Tim light the statue with the reflector or anything? I don't think you did. Did you, Tim?
No, thank you for asking that. I did not. And that's another thing I'm learning with portraits. You pointed this out to me, Quinn, once, that I showed you a portrait and I was frustrated. And you go, well, Tim, why don't you put a bouncer, a little reflector underneath your chin and fill in some of the shadow here in your portrait? And I go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. But in this statue, to answer your question, I did not bounce any light. It was just natural.
And here's the
light.
frustrating thing with it. See, we're used to having a roll of film in our camera or having a digital camera. So when we see a scene or we set something up, we see it with our eyes and we're translating that into our brain, how the light's hitting. Well, collodion sees that scene very differently, not only from the color standpoint, but from what quality or type of light and how strong it is. So you may see a nice shadow side on a portrait, and in collodion, it'll be black. It can't even see any of it, right? It just depends on the quality of light, the strength of that light. So don't let your eyes be deceived using the traditional methods of silver gelatin film or digital or whatever you're using and try to translate that over to collodion. You got to come over and learn to see in a whole different way. Learn to see that you may have a particular green or a particular yellow that will not photograph until it is illuminated beyond. It'll blow you away how much light it would take to illuminate it. And then another time you may be dealing with a different hue or saturation of those colors, and they're perfectly fine without any illumination. It is a finicky, strange process that way. Don't trust your eyes looking at those scenes. It just will not work. Color-wise, light-wise, how your light is falling on the subject, you're always going to be tweaking and messing around. You almost have to say, collodion, what do you see here? And photograph it, and then come back to the drawing table and say, I'm going to make these adjustments. I'm going to do this and do that. I'm going to photograph on this day with this particular light, whatever it is. It's just a process of learning to see how and people that come into this process thinking that it's regular photography are just completely overwhelmed. Nothing works the way they're used to it working. Things are upside down and backwards. The colors are different. Like I said, the light's different, the quality of light, the strength of light, all of those things. And they just get completely frustrated trying to make a decent exposure. So think differently, see differently, and you probably have much better chance at making successful photographs. And again, depending on how you define successful. I'm sorry, I'm missing some questions here. Chopper says, with high contrast subjects, does it help to expose during low UV light time to get more detailed shadows, maybe early in the morning? No, Chopper, no. That's actually, I understand where your question is coming from, but that's actually the opposite of what we're talking about. What we're trying to do is use that bright, actinic or UV-rich light in the daytime, but diffuse it, break it up with a scrim, with clouds, with positioning, however you want to do it. But use that strong light, but just break it up so it doesn't just hit one section and then everything else is left glass or black plate or whatever. So highlights and shadows, right? You want to fill in that tonal range. I've said this many times on this show. I think people miss the boat when they don't exploit this process for everything it can give. And this process can definitely show that tonal range. Unlike most any other photographic process, it's virtually grainless. It's in the right light, the right chemistry, the right operator, you can have tonal range for days. That's why in print you can feel like you can reach in there and grab the subject or the object. It's like so dimensional. So if you're shooting in low UV light in the morning or late afternoon, you're down in the 3,000, 4,000 Kelvin temperature, that warmer, the photographer's light, which not us photographers, but the photographer's light, the sunset light and all that, that's way too low a Kelvin temperature. Your exposures are going to be out of control, way past what anything's doable. You're not going to get the details. This process relies on UVA and UVB light, period. I mean, can you make a photograph with moonlight and tungsten? Yeah, you can, but it's not going to be the richest contrast, tonal range, all that stuff. It's just not going to happen. You can make nighttime photographs. Yes, with collodion you can, definitely. They're just not going to be optimal. We're talking about the optimal exposure and the time of day and the type of how you want to manipulate or manage the light, really. What else do we have up here? Did I miss anything else? I don't think so. Good. Okay. Do we have anything else going on here? I don't think so. Maybe I chat.
How about Jan? Do you have anything to show? You always show something. Jan.
I'm sure Jan does.
Do you have a photograph, Jan?
You got to unmute yourself, Jan. There you go.
Yes, I sent you a mail on Messenger, a picture. Quinn.
Well, let me see. Let me pull it up.
That's on overcast day in Norway.
Oh, good. Let me find it here.
And you see the detail in the shadows, because I think this was around UV around 4 or 5.
Okay.
And I was shocked. I think I was up to 16 and 12 seconds.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Let's pull this one up. Here we go. Here. Oh, this is the grass roof garden top. That's cool. I like that. Let's pull it up here. Share screen, application window. Boom. Here's Jan. Jan, take the floor.
That's everything. It stopped raining for 2 hours ago, and it's around 12 o'clock, middle of the day, and 1 o'clock, I think, because the UV was on the top, and you see the shadows in that cabin there. Yeah. I was shocked when I developed it. I was so happy. I never see that give the result before.
So I got a question for you, Jan. As you look at this photograph, and this is a great, I'm glad you sent this. This is I don't know. Oh, you probably just sent it to me, that's why I didn't see it. But this is right on point for what we're talking about. Here's the other side of that equation, right? The other side of that equation is now you get this image with all the tonal range in it, right? Kind of like the HDR, a third of a stop, a third of a stop, a third of a stop. Now everything. Now what happens is you start to flatten out because there are no valleys and ridges anymore. It's all kind of flattened because everything is illuminated, so to speak. Not completely, but it's a great point. And I've written about this. I've spoken about it before. If you're set up and you want to make the perfect photograph, the technically perfect, well-lit photograph, if your chemicals are all in order, do it right after a rainstorm. Right after a rainstorm, when it's still overcast, and get your exposures down, and you will be able to dial that in so clearly. And here's my theory, and I've written about this before. Not that anybody's ever asked me until this came up, but my theory or my hypothesis is when it rains, it pulls all that atmospheric junk out of the air. And once it pulls out of the air, there's clarity. More UV can get through, more light can get through, and then you have a thin overcast, and you have this perfect light being scrimmed by that thin overcast. These are you'll get tonal range for days. Now it's up to you to light, position, develop, and do all your methodology, your techniques properly to achieve the exact amount of contrast you want, the exact amount of tonal range you want, right? So that's a great example of what we're talking about right there. Right after a storm, middle of the day. Yes, Jan.
Normally, I have my house up on the right side.
Okay.
Up to the right. I stand in my window and take digital photos on a sunny day.
Uh-huh.
There is so much shadows on the right side of this cabin that it's going to be dark in normal digital photo. So that day, that was almost reflecting UV from all the sides. And it was a wow feeling.
Yeah.
What's happening?
A wonderful technical demonstration, technical insight to what this emulsion or film will do, or however you want to call it, we'll call it film, how this film operates in certain types of light, certain types of day, certain types of year, and obviously, if you want to get down to the real nitty-gritty, right after a rainstorm. Right after a rainstorm is just ideal. It's just, I've done it so many times. It's so perfect. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Rainstorms or cloudy days. Cloudy days at minimum. Linda has something here. Let's see. It's really a fine line in exposure time and some time totally frustrating. I made a picture that's overexposed at 7 seconds and underexposed at 6. Yeah. And here, that's a good point, Linda, because if you're messing with, remember, as we're rotating, even a few minutes during a certain time of year as the Earth rotates, that light will change. So your 6 seconds it was under and your 7 seconds it's over, you have to kind of juggle that. If you use continuous light, that problem's resolved because it's always going to be the same. But my problem with continuous light is it's artificial and it's not going to be as clean and strong and respond to these changes and these ideas that we've been talking about today. But I know what you mean. I've had days where, man, I cannot nail the exposure. By the time I get another plate poured, the light's changed a little bit. It's done this, done that, whatever. That's another good reason. If you can have a consistently overcast or semi-cloudy day to work in a good time of year, maybe in the northern hemisphere, maybe between May and August, and a good overcast day consistently with the chemistry tight, with your technique tight, you'll nail them. You'll nail it every single time. You'll get so good at this that you'll know exactly what exposure you need under most situations. So those are really good. Great. Thanks for sharing that. That's really good stuff right there. What else do we have? I like natural light. I do too. That's absolute. That's the bomb for me. Natural light is what we count on for sure. And let's be honest with you, that's what this process was designed to deal with, right? That's what we're on. So, oh, okay, Lawrence, you sent some to. Let me check my email. Speaking of negative, Tim, Jan says, Tim, where did you buy the red tape you use around your plate? Litho tape.
Yes, go ahead and answer that, Quinn. I got it from wherever you told me to get it, and I bought a ton of it. And you can get different thicknesses, widths. You can get different widths of lithographic tape.
Yeah, yeah. And
so
what Tim's talking
this
about
is really,
yeah.
really thin, really thin.
Yeah, hold that up again, Tim, would you? Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of my images like that as well too. It just depends. These are carbon printing, so the carbon printing requires the frilling. Yeah, see that white around that white border he's got there. Yep, perfect. So it's called lithograph tape, and it'll give you a really clean border on your pop prints because it, the light can't see through it, right? So let's go over and look at Lawrence's image.
Where do we get that? Do we get that at Dick Blick, or do we get that on Amazon? Or
any print shop will have lithograph tape. Like you said, it'll come in 2 millimeters to 10 millimeters thick, and they come in small rolls, and you just roll it off, cut it, and tape it up. Yeah, you can get it pretty much anywhere. Pablo asks, speaking of negatives, why would you prefer intensifying redeveloping over making a direct negative by overexposing and overdeveloping with more diluted developer? Great question, but let's answer that and we'll go to Lawrence's images. Great question, Pablo. Pablo's saying, I'll just synthesize it a little bit. I'll just say, let me see if I can get in here. I'll just say, Pablo's asking, why are you going to this redevelopment or intensification process? Why not just make, I got to close these windows down, sorry. Why not just make a photograph, overexpose it, make a photograph, and then develop it longer with the iron developer? Well, here's a problem with doing that. One thing I would say is a lot of times, and I'm not going to go in this too deep because we just don't have time right now, but I'll talk about this next week if you want to. I can make a section for it. A lot of times when people go out to make negatives, what they'll do is they'll give their plate a lot of exposure, right? They'll take the cap off and hit light. So if a good exposure for me would have been 10 seconds, they'd go 15 seconds. What happens when you overexpose in wet collodion on a plate? What happens to that plate? Well, if the exposure, the X value is 10 seconds and you go 12 seconds or 15 seconds, what happens to that? Does anybody know? Do you gain more density? No, you lose density. Overexposure in wet plate, you lose density. You flatten out, you mud out, you just go, boop, you go the opposite way. So that's one thing, Pablo, is first, you don't want to overexpose. In fact, if my X factor, if the proper exposure for a negative is 12 seconds, and I do an ambrotype at 6 seconds, and it's a good ambrotype, and if I double that, that would be 12 seconds, I'll go to 9 seconds or 10 seconds, and I'll actually underexpose a little bit, and then that way, with the redeveloper, I can just add those 2 or 3 seconds that I need by visually inspecting that redevelopment, and I'll have the proper density, not lose any contrast, not overexpose and flatten the image or anything like that. That's the control. Now, everybody's mileage is going to vary. You saw just a minute ago on the video I showed you from Germany, I'm in that cemetery, and I make that 8 seconds or 6 second exposure. No redevelopment. I was holding it up to the light. That thing would print for days on any pot paper, right out of the camera. So it's not, you don't always have to redevelop, of course, but a lot of times, like my methodology is to creep up to the exposure so I don't go over it, and then add those seconds, 2 or 3, 4 seconds, whatever I needed, manually with visual inspection. That's how I do it. So I hope it answers that. So Henrik and Lawrence both sent some images. Let's jump over here and grab them, and I'll pop them up, and you can talk about them. Let's see, Lawrence, Dutch photo critique on wet plate. Okay, there he is. Some of my work to critique. Perfect. Okay, let's look at these. Oh, they're big ones. Let's do this. I'll pull them out, and we'll download them real quick, and we'll throw them in our little critique folder here. Actually, let's do it this way. Okay, here's Lawrence. You're on board here. Let's put you up here. Stream or share screen. Lawrence, where are you? There we go. Martin Koch. Small.
Yeah, Martin Koch is a Dutch photographer also. I will introduce myself shortly. I'm a Dutch photographer, a portrait photographer, doing wet plate collodion for 7 years now. I bought my first camera from Alex Timmermans, maybe a well-known Dutch collodion artist also. And I've tuned in through not artificial light, but by flash. I use flash a lot. And I use Broncolor Pulsar 8 generators for my studio lights. The reason why I use studio lights is because you can shape the light more perfectly, and I like the old Rembrandt toning collodion wet plate makes when the light is perfectly set. The reason why I use flash instead of daylight is that I live in Europe, or I live in Holland, so the light is diffuse, like the subject we talked about before, and making it difficult for my portraits to light, because on a certain level all my clients want to have a perfect picture. So that is why I use flash. In that way I make my own recipes. Regarding your QC recipe, I inherited 4 years ago, so thank you for that, Quinn.
Absolutely.
And that's mostly my go-to recipe while making these portraits. And I make my recipes myself because then I can control the freshness of my collodion and the develop times. So all my images are coming out like this. Difference the light settings, but I've already put some up in your Facebook group, and I was just willing to show them, and maybe someone has some critique on it or pointers to make it better.
Perfect. What do you guys think? I'll give my 2 cents after you guys have spoken. I always have something to say about photographs. Somebody jump in here and help Lawrence out, or give Lawrence some feedback.
And I'm used to critique. I've studied at a well-renowned Dutch photo academy, and so all critiques are welcome. So
yeah,
don't be shy.
I was gonna say you look like you're about 25 years old, so I'm sure you can take a critique.
Yes. I'm a little bit older. I'm touching 50 almost.
There you go. You're young. You're a pup.
Yes.
So you guys, somebody jump in here. Give some feedback to Lawrence. What do you guys?
So Lawrence, one thing I notice whenever I see portraits, I look for shadows that bring out texture and dimensionality to a person's face, and I'm not very good at portraits. I'm trying to learn it. So one thing I notice is that I assume it's the person's right side of their nose, there's a shadow there, and I really, really love that shadow. Maybe a little more shadow on that side of the face would be nice, so it's not so direct, and but I love this image. I love the texture of this guy's beard. It's a beautiful portrait, and I wish I could take a portrait this nice. So I admire this. And then I do have a question about one of the other ones where the guy is wearing glasses. And a lot of glasses nowadays are UV protected, yes, that one. A lot of eyeglasses are UV protected. They have a coating on there that protects against UV light. And I just wonder, what do you guys think about glasses and portraits? Does it make the eyes darker? Does it, I mean, what do glasses do to portrait photography?
I find the subject glasses very interesting because glasses are difficult. Once you get the glare out of the light and the glare in your glasses out of the pictures, there's a simple trick to do this, and that is.
Is it a beauty dish, Lawrence?
It's a one light setup. Yes, it's a beauty dish, a rather large one.
Yeah,
it's about 70 or 90 centimeters in diameter.
It looks big. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I use that is it grabs the light around the face.
Yeah.
And I like the comment Tim just said about the shadow on the right side of the face. It's accomplished by, and you can modify it a little bit by setting up your light really high and at a 30 or maybe 25 degrees setup in front of the face. It's usually called. I'm Dutch, so I'm a huge fan of Rembrandt, and he always painted like this.
Yeah.
So every time my specialty is really I look at faces. Some faces are round, some faces are small, so you have to shape your light differently.
Yeah.
And coming back to glasses, it's the same way. The most problems I have with glasses are the thickness. Some people have really small glasses, thin glasses, and some have really thick glasses. And when there are thick glasses in place, I find it very difficult to focus because those glasses also magnifies the eyes. So you're not really on the eyes. You're looking at an enlargement of the eyes.
Yeah.
So that is always a trick, and I find that in this case, this gentleman had very thick glasses. And can you zoom in a little bit,
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes, I can.
And the problems I had was just because of the thickness, the reflection of the light is also different.
Yep.
It stays bigger in the lens. So finding those eyes were horrible, really horrible. So
you can still see
that.
Lawrence, you can still see the rim of the beauty dish in his eyes, but it's diffused, and it's diffused. His glasses are so thick that beauty rim reflection is diffused in the glasses itself too. That's very
correct. Yeah, and when you get thinner glass, it's a more thinner line. It's a more distinctive line you get in there.
Yes. Can I show you something here? I just wanted to ask you and the rest of the folks in here. I'm going to go back to. Let me go back to this one. This one. Can I ask you? So there's the image there. Okay. So if I were to critique this photograph, I agree with Tim. I love the texture in the beard. I love this subtle kind of Rembrandt lighting on the face. The only problem that I have with this is that his face and his body is hanging. If I were going to make a photograph like this, I would fill the frame up like this. I would fill the frame up so I don't have to pay any attention to this material around him. Whether the head's not separated or the hair's not separated, the only thing I would say, you could subtly throw something in the back. It just depends on what you're doing, though. I mean, if you're looking technically for, a Caravaggio kind of painting is like this, but still, if you study Caravaggio, right? If you look at that yin and yang light, if you look at that high contrast, like what you're doing here, you're still going to have details where it needs to be, but the head, I think you separated the head a little better on that one for me, and even a little more better for that one on me for me as well too. But just talking about separating the head or the hair, and in this case he has a hat or something on. So
yeah, correct.
I'm just saying, is it look better to fill the frame if you're going to do this and fill the frame and really look at his face like that, or do people like it? His head just kind of floating there on black. What do you guys think?
So, Quinn, are you suggesting that the backdrop on this image be
Well, yeah, there's
wider?
no separation in the head and the shoulders or anything. It's skin and beard and a little bit. It's just kind of floating there, and a little bit of neck. And there's no separation on the back. There's no dimensional quality, as it were. If he just had a little pop in the back, just or a little hair light or something, not extreme, just enough. I would say you're coming closer with that one, where you can see the air, a little bit of separation of the hair there, a little bit like that. And even here too, you see the hair lit and separated, but here there's just nothing. There's just a face, a beard, and a little patch of neck. I like the intensity of this gentleman. I love the textures in his beard and all that stuff, but I would just like to see kind of the rest of him in a way. I would like to see him more dimensional and pulled off of that black backdrop. And I'm not saying light it up like a Christmas tree. I'm just saying subtly, so you can see the shape of the head, so you can see dimension, so you can, rather than just having a face hanging there in the black kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
it's funny.
After.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny while mentioning it. I'm testing something now with just a round shape, a blue round shape behind the heads of my latest portraits. But I don't like popping lights at the back.
No, yeah.
So, because it reflects also, and especially with the old lenses I use, I have a Dallmeyer. It bounces back sometimes, so I get some kind of flare in my image.
Yeah, the lens flare is terrible because the big piece of uncoated glass, the light comes in and bounces around.
It bounces really around. So I'm testing right now with a big round blue ball in the background, and I'm positive of placing the head inside the round.
Beautiful. Love to see him. Gorgeous portraits, Lawrence. Really nice.
Thank you.
Love the texture. Love the detail. The range is gorgeous. This gentleman's light or bluer eyes are really spectacular when you get in on him. I'm
always in awe with the freckles in a face.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get people in and they show a little sign of freckles, but when I get the picture done, it's there, it's in their face. So people, and I also always shoot commercially digital, and I find that every time I make a wet plate portrait, people stare at it for more than 10 minutes.
Yep.
They're so in awe with their own face. Yep. And nowadays, in these technical days, you get your picture on an iPhone and you just swipe. You're not looking.
Very good point.
And because of my exposure times are between 3 or 4 seconds, people used to tend to put up their more serious face. And that is something that's not done also mostly, because most people will be on a picture laughing. Why? You have thousands of pictures you laughing, and the pictures that matter are the more serious ones, and they count. So every time they glaze at their picture for more than 10 minutes.
We call that a mask, Lawrence. People when they see a camera, they'll put on a mask and do this every time. Right?
It's a grin. It's not real. Yeah.
No, it's not real. It's not showing anything about themselves. Here, I always say I'm a portrait photographer as well, and I always say they co-create the image with me because there's so much involvement. There's a head brace on them. There's smell of ether in the air. There's rubber gloves, and they're saying, "Whoa, what?" They're just
what you cooking?
Really, they say, what do you want me to do? And I say, what I want you to do is empty your head and stare at this point on the camera right there for me, or stare over here at this point and just empty your head. Don't think of anything. Just empty your head. And every single time, I am not kidding you, the first plate is the most powerful
plate, yes,
most revealing, most telling of that human being there is, beyond any other process, beyond any other ritual or ceremony of making photograph, that first plate, the unaware, the innocence, the newness, everything, it just shows. And I just love that feeling. I can see that in portraits, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love them.
Thank you.
Love them.
Thank
Very,
you.
very, very nice. Come back and share some more with us.
I will.
Definitely do that.
I love the images. I hope I can make some like this someday. They're beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, everybody can.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Let me jump up here before we go to Henrik's photos. Drew asked, how would you compare? Oh, I can put it up here. How would you compare the post rainstorm lighting just discussed to open shade north skylight in terms of clarity, tonal range, and contrast? You know, Drew, that is a wonderful question, and thank you for asking that. Here's my analysis on that. Again, depending on where you're at geographically, you may be in near Paris or near New York or an industrial area on low elevation, and that pollution is going to come in. If you're in a little valley, that pollution is going to come in and block some of that UV. When we have a rainstorm, it kind of clears that air out and allows more UV to come through. So a rainstorm is always going to be something special, just because it's like cleaning the tabletop off, and you got a nice clean, or like cleaning the glass and you can see through it without any obstruction. It's always better. But really, we're after that north sky actinic light, shaded and diffused, right? That's what we're after. So anytime you can go for that, do that. But if you have a rainstorm, if you have an overcast day, if you can work in natural light with diffused in those peak months, right? You can't do this in December and January. The light's way too low and the Kelvin temperature's way down. Doesn't work. So what I'm talking about from May to August, diffused light, beautiful. Open, bright, actinic north light sky in shade, beautiful. Cloudy day, beautiful. There's many ways to skirt that. It's just you have to kind of figure out where you're at. In comparison, the clarity is going to be very similar. I've just found sometimes the rainstorm just, maybe it's just psychological. I don't know. I don't have any definitive evidence for this, but the rain cloud just, the rain just seems to clear everything up. So, oh yeah, here's Henrik said the same thing. The first pick, very fine light. This is on Lawrence's images. Like the little light on the background to subtract the what I was just saying to you, Henrik. Rembrandt light, exactly right. Yeah, Rembrandt light. UV protection on glasses can make them go totally black. Some reenact photogs will have glasses with no lenses to use. Yes, anytime, and it's not just the lenses. You know, I've done this over the years many, many times, but it's not just the lenses. It's UV protected makeup, base makeup. It'll turn white women black. It's contact lenses that are UV protected, turn their eyeballs black. So it's not just glasses. There are makeup, contact lenses. There, anytime just regular windows. Anytime you have something with any kind of UV protection in it, and you're trying to photograph it, you're going to lose. It's not going to see that, really. I mean, they're going to block that spectrum of light from the image. So yes, reenactors will do the lensless kind of glasses and everything. That's right, Craig. That's a good point. John says, good morning. I just joined and had to have this conversation. Let's put, there's Craig's comment with the lenses. I should put these up every time I get them. But John says, good morning. I'm just joining. Just had this conversation about freckles the other day. Do they pop with collodion because of the unique reflected of melanin to UV? Well, John, you'd have to break that question down. Do they pop with collodion because of the unique reflectivity of melanin to UV? Let's rephrase that. When a freckle is formed, it can form in anywhere in the epidermis and down in the lower portions of the skin, and you get down into the melanin where they really form. Freckles are protection against UV. That's why they're dark and they're under the skin and they're dark. They're protection against UV for your human body, right? So they form under the skin. And what happens when you get in front of a camera with a wet collodion plate in it? If the UV is striking your face, if there's strong enough UV, that is going to go under that epidermis, that top layer of skin, and go down into the melanin. And it's going to show what's in the melanin. So if you've been up snowboarding all winter in the bright sunlight and the snow reflecting on your face, and you do that for a few years, and then I photograph you one winter time, and you're a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned guy, and you turn black, and you say, "Why did I turn black?" I said, "You've had a lot of sun exposure." I photograph people with skin cancer, and you can see the cancer under, or scars where they've had it. You can't see it in normal life, but you photograph them in collodion, all that stuff is revealed. So basically it's UV light, and the collodion going, it can't really see this top stuff, goes under there, grabs that melanin layer where the UV is really responding, and shows that on the plate. That's why. I agree, Linda. Linda says, nice pictures. Love the details in the pictures of men with the beards are really interesting with all the textures. I love that. Nicely done. I agree. I think I wanted to do a project on beards one time. They have beard growing contests in the Western United States. And I thought it'd be fun just to do a whole series of portraits of beard growers, because they do some crazy stuff. Very interesting looking stuff. No problem, John. I'm happy. I hope that helps. Yeah. Just like lenses, UV blocking. Yeah, exactly. Anything with UV protection in it, keep that in mind. I've had plenty of people send me images saying, "Oh my God, I can't get an exposure here. I've set this person next to this window. This is a 45-second exposure wide open with an f4 lens. What's wrong?" And I say, "Open your window." And they open the window, and it's a 3-second exposure. That UV light being blocked next to the window will, just because you can see it with your eyes doesn't mean collodion can. Just because you see a certain color, a certain light on a subject doesn't mean collodion can. You really have to learn how to see like collodion sees, the color, the values, the light, the strength, the quality of light, all of those things. It goes even beyond studio lighting for sure. It operates differently. It just operates on a non-visual spectrum for the most part, 90% or so.
So I have a question for, I guess, Lawrence and Quinn or whoever does portraits. If you have a woman come into your studio to have a portrait taken, I'm not picking on women. I just know that women wear foundation, they wear makeup naturally every day. Do you instruct them to not wear makeup? I had my daughter come, brand new baby, and I photographed her, and I assume she was wearing makeup. I don't know, because her face is kind of dark and splotchy, whereas the baby's face was porcelain, pure white. You know, do you instruct people to not wear makeup?
Yeah, I instruct people to not wear makeup because mostly the makeup worn in Holland is not very thick. It's more subtle, just an eyeliner or a lipstick, and that's it. But I strongly suggest not to come with makeup because makeup has UV blockers in it, and I don't know which products they used or something like that. Women find it often very difficult because they have to walk in a plain face through the streets to my studio. Afterwards, they can do their makeup, no problem. I find it also that when they have too much makeup on, it changes their face, their structures, their UV blockers in some cases. So when they see it, imagine when I have the advice not to bring in makeup to the studio and they do it. Also, I make one picture and show them the difference. And that is mostly the thing that works. And what I find often is that when you let them see the difference, people talk about it. So the next time you're putting out such an advice, people accept it.
You're training up your clientele.
And that's mostly because you can advertise a lot, but mostly it's done by mouth. So people know your work. They go to parties, they have birthdays or gatherings of somehow, and they talk about you. So the only and the thing that stands out is that it's not normal to go to a photographer without your makeup. So when it's done without your makeup, it's a story to tell. So I use on that. Yeah.
I'm the opposite way. Since I don't do commercial work, I do more of my personal fine art, my narrative storytelling work. I have people, they always ask me, well, what should I wear? What should I do when I come for the portrait? Just whatever you do. I don't care. However you are. I want to photograph people, and if they come out dark or if they have snake eyes, everybody's seen that photograph of that Parisian model that I did, right? She's got black snake eyes, right? She freaked out about it. She has green eyes, but she had UV protected contact lenses in that day. And she flipped out. That was probably one of my favorite portraits I'd ever made in that context, because it's so unique. Nobody had ever seen it before. It was just interesting, right? I mean, what is going on here? I call it snake eyes because it looked like 2 dots on a dice, just sitting there. So good question, though. I have them come natural myself. But Samuel says one more question about the lithographic tape around the glass. Can it be any red tape? No, it can't be. Because Amazon in Germany doesn't show any of it. Yeah, they do. Go to what's the big art store in Germany? It starts with a B. I'll look it up. They have it. I bought it all the time in Germany. You can go to your local art market and get it. I'll get with you, Samuel, or send me an email. I'll hook you up, brother. No problem at all. So let's go over to Henrik's plates here. I appreciate you guys sharing these. It's really nice to be able to look at other people's work and talk about it, right? I mean, that's really important. And I hope it's Henrik, where did you send? Did you email me your photos? Let's see what he said. Did you email me, Henrik? Henrik, put a note where you sent that, because I can't see. There's been a lot of text come in. I can't see. I've done wet plate for about 8 months, Henrik says. The picture exposed is 7 seconds and artificial. UV black. I'm a professional photographer in advertising. Little portrait. Messenger. Oh, thank you. Messenger. Yes. Okay, let me jump over to Messenger and we'll pull up Henrik's photograph. And where is Henrik? Are you in Holland as well? Are you in the Netherlands? Or I can't remember where you said you were. He doesn't have a microphone. He says he'll have one next time, maybe. New message from Henrik. There you go.
Regarding his last name, I think he's Dutch.
Yes, I would say so.
And I would really love you to pronounce it.
Wichmann.
Yeah, Wichmann.
Wichmann.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. I lived in Europe for 5 years, so I've spent a lot of time in the Netherlands. I spent a lot of time in Germany, the Netherlands, all over Western Europe. Look at this. Let's get some feedback for you, Henrik. Just taking me a second. I'll be a little more prepared next time. I'd like to get these critiques going, and there's so many photographers out there that I know. I get emails all the time. Rather than me critique them, how about we bring them into the show? All right, guys, I'm going to let somebody get it. This is Henrik's work. He says, months. The picture is exposed at 7 seconds in artificial light, UV light, and black light. I'm a professional photographer into advertising photo and a little portraiture. He's in Denmark. Henrik's in Denmark. Okay. Welcome. Yes. He is in Denmark. Yes, Denmark. So give Henrik some feedback on. Should I blow it up a little bit? Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. It's hard to see. Figure out a little better way to. I don't want to crop the image, so. Oh, wait! I can't blow it here. I have to download it real quick. Just grab it real quick. Download it.
I found the glass is very mysterious.
Glass, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch over to this one and we'll get this going here. I'm going to just stop sharing and I'll be able to blow this up now. Application window, there we go. Okay, we'll zoom in on this a little bit and get some details. Boom, 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 here. I can't expand that. Oh, I can't expand it. They're restricting me here. Okay. Well, we'll scroll around it a little bit. So, what do you guys think? Can you see that? Yeah, you can see it. Right off the bat, the initial feeling that I get, and you guys can jump in here and stop me anytime you want because I'm always talking. But yes, her glasses are UV coated for sure. But right off the bat, the initial impression that I get, I just had kind of just a flutter, a wave in my head, is Julia Margaret Cameron. And this little girl exudes a little bit of that feeling. The hands, the head, the positioning, a mother or a woman and a child. The problem, if you would, the problem, and this is constructive, Henrik, again, there's just my opinion. I would have loved to seen the head separated. I don't like floating heads. There's something about a floating head. Then on top of that, her glasses are UV coated. So now we have an implication of blindness or sight impaired going on. May not be a bad thing. I don't know. I'm just observing and stating what I see here. I love the child's expression. There's something about children, if they're relaxed and in the right situation, there's something really intriguing. And Margaret Cameron, Julia Margaret Cameron, if you don't know who she is, she started in photography when she was 50 years old, or 48 or something, in the middle 1860s or so. And she did these wonderful kind of allegoric, kind of spiritual, and some would say religious in some texts, and mythological kind of portraits of women and girls, and not just women and girls, but a lot of that. That's what this initially reminded me of. But the only issue that I'd really have with it is separating that head. The black head. In fact, Henrik, I think you're the one that said that about Lawrence's photographs, about separating. It's really important. Like me, this white light behind me, you don't need a halo, but you just need, what it does is it gives you depth. You know that there's a three-dimensional head there, and it helps a lot. I love the feeling of the photograph, though. Anybody else?
Yeah. And on the contrary, Quinn, I really like that the woman is placed behind this black background.
Okay.
And so I really like this image. It also, and that's why photography is so subjective. And I really like that. What I really like about this picture, and it's a bit, and I don't mean it crude, it has a bit of a old postmortem card look. Sure. And I find that very, very intriguing. And if like Henry says, he's done it just for 8 months, well, getting an exposure and a good image on a plate is really good within 8 months. So
yes, I agree. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Thank you, Lawrence. I backed that up 100% as well.
It took me definitely a year before I had some images which I was pleased with. So, and it's an ongoing process. So
you don't want to know how long it took me.
I know. We're still learning. Yeah, we're still learning. So. So when you are a professional photographer, you have some background. So when you work in a darkroom, there's some techniques you can use also in wet plate collodion. Yeah. So it has a postmortem feel, which I like. I really like those pictures. But that's me.
Yeah. And let me ask you, Lawrence, why do you like her black background? Why do you like that?
Why I like this? If the wall was also that grayish white pattern from behind, it would be too busy. And I find it now it's just like a ghost from a closet or something. She comes out of the dark.
Okay.
Because the hair, there's some structures, especially on the right side. If you're looking at the picture on the right side, there's some curly hair thing going, but when you look at it purely, I see just the face coming out of the dark. So that's intriguing for me.
Okay,
that's what I like.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. So and then he has a stain running down the side of it there too, which is kind of interesting. The dark looks like a
stripe stain. Yeah.
It looks more like something silver developer kind of issue going on there a little bit, maybe.
A hot streak?
Yeah, this dark streak.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So something I noticed when I first saw this, I was confused, and it's in a good way. I was confused because it leaves me with a question. It leaves me wanting more. And what I'm confused about is if you look at the child in her lap, the child almost looks sick or tired or something. Yeah. Something's not right, okay? And I'm kind of an emotional person, so I was like, is everything okay? What's wrong? But then I look at her face, and she has the ever so slightest little smile. You know, the left side of her face is kind of upturned a little bit. So it's almost like I look at her, the mom, everything's okay. She's happy. She's smiling. This kid just must be tired, you know? So it's a little confusing, but in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably the little child moved a bit during this 12 seconds of exposure, and that is also the look you have on those postmortem cards. Ooh.
I think Lawrence,
very intriguing, Tim. Right, you're right.
I think the softness in the child is just the depth of field.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Rather than movement. So it looks like Henrik, and he can clarify. It looks like he focused more on the mother's chest, the area just behind her chin. It looks like the neck is sharp and then kind of down. And then you can see the child's shirt on the left side is sharp. And so this is depth of field rather than movement. But, and Henry's actually, the child was ill.
Oh.
Yeah. And very tired. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Tim, you're on it.
Hopefully the child is better now.
Yeah, I hope so too. That's obviously, yeah. Good stuff. We like looking at photographs and hearing about people's journey. And again, I want to reiterate, 8 months in, Henrik, you're doing great, man. Stick with it. And come in and have, focus on mother, he said. Yep. Okay.
Tim, you're still on mute.
Yeah. Me?
No, Tim. Tim is talking.
Oh, Tim.
You're on mute.
There you go.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say I love the photograph because it leaves me with a question, and he answered it just now, so I appreciate that.
Good. Yeah. I good. And it's a start of something to work on. And Deidre said, she is my favorite photographer. She referring to Julia Margaret Cameron. And if you haven't seen her work, she worked in wet plates. So I definitely encourage you to look at her work. That's great. Thank you for sharing those. Okay, guys, I hate to do this, but I have things to do and I got to go. But I totally loved having this happen today. I thought it was very productive. And maybe we can get some more people in. Have your wet plate friends get in here and sign up and chime the bell so they know when we're doing this thing. And have people either send or give me a link to get into their photographs. It's very constructive. It will help. Whether it's technical, conceptual, or somewhere in between, commercial work, whatever you're doing, bring it in. We're all friends. Nobody's here to trip or one up anybody. We're just trying to be friends and help one another. And I think if we keep going and kind of build this, people will be more open to come in and share their work. It's frightening to share work with a bunch of people you don't know and it's not the most what are they going to say? They're going to rip me apart. I mean, no, nobody's going to rip you apart. I hope people are honest, like I said earlier, but it needs to be friendly and constructive. It can be your own opinion, but it needs to be constructive, I think. So I appreciate everyone coming in today. It's almost noon here in the the mountain high city here. And I'm going to get out of here. I got some things to do today. And I hope you guys stay healthy and happy. Come back next week and bring your photographs, man. Bring in men and women. I say man, meaning, you know, the general kind of term. But bring in your photographs and share them with people. You get good advice. The worst thing that can happen is that you'll have a good time. Even if you don't get anything constructive back, it'll start, if you've never shown your photographs or you've never been in an environment where people will analyze them and critique them, you might get turned on to some really cool ideas or really cool directions, either technically or conceptually. And that's not going to happen if we don't share some photographs in a good environment, not in a, you know, a politicized face bag kind of Facebook environment. Those aren't good environments to share stuff in. If you can't come face to face to some degree, people are not held accountable, right? You can sit there and chomp on your keyboard and call people assholes all day. Come on in and call them an asshole to their face and see what happens. Yeah, that's what I say. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And thanks for spending time. And for those that shared work today, many thanks. Come back next week. We'll do it again on Saturday. Ciao. Stay healthy and happy, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.